everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the vlog. So today's episode is a bit of a special one for me. We're going to come on to the reasons why that is shortly, but thought I'd just give you a bit of an update. So last week's video went down really well. I think you all liked the challenge, and just to be clear, I have deliberately bought that car from Copart knowing that it's been a doctored car. So there was a few comments talking about me should know that it was a doctored car. I did know it was a doctored car, and I bought it because I wanted a project, because we haven't had a project on this channel for ages, and this is the first one. And there's a reason why there has been a bit of a delay, but let me give you an update as to where we are, because we're not going to have the car on this episode. So if you tune in for that, the next episode of the TTS is going to be in a couple of weeks time, and I'm going to show you the reason why now. Follow me. So the TTS is looking a little sorry for itself, and we really need to get started on that car. But before we do, we need to sort out a couple of things in the garage. And the good news is that the first thing that I needed to arrive has arrived. This is my new lift. It's not assembled yet, and the reason why it's not assembled is because we have no floor tiles. But the floor tiles are coming this week, and then all of this has to go. We have to get it all out so we can get the floor tiles in. So that is going to be next week's episode. Next week's episode will end the garage rebuild project, okay? So by the end, all this will be complete. We'll have all our units on the wall there, all in one episode. So it might be a bit of a long one, so you want to stay tuned in for that. But the lift has come. I'm so pleased with this lift. It is better than I expected, although I've not used it yet in anger. But it's not the one that I originally wanted either. It's actually better than the one that I wanted, but more of that next week when we set this up. Now, for the last couple of years, and particularly last year in particular, I've been trying to get on the Audi media lists. And what that means is that Audi, as a manufacturer, what they do is they meet and greet you, and once they get to know you, they allow you to have cars. Now, it is extremely difficult to get on that list. You really do need to meet a team, and they need to have the trust in you that you're going to produce the content that is worthy of you having a vehicle. Because they give you these vehicles for up to a week, sometimes even longer, and you've probably seen some YouTubers who've actually done that. But in order for that to happen, I need to change the profile of this channel. Now, traditionally in the past, we've done projects that have been Copart related, and that won't change. We'll still do those projects, hence the reason why we got that TTS downstairs. But what I tried to do was, or what I've done is I've moved away from being a salvage channel. Cars for Paul is all about reviews, product reviews, and cars. Yeah, hence the title. And finally, what that's done is Audi now, having met with them a couple of times, have finally now approved me to be part of their team of influencers or car media influencers who can do reviews on their vehicles. And this week Audi invited me for a taster day where I was able to drive a few cars that they bought in the stable. There's only a few of us there, which is really nice, and it meant that we were able to spend a little bit more time with the vehicles and to get to know them, and also for Audi to get to know us. So I picked a few cars, and you'll see some of those videos coming up over the next few weeks. But the first one I'm going to focus on is the RS3, because as you know, it's a dream of mine to have an RS3. We'll get there at some point, or the RS3 engine, which is that 5-cylinder legendary Audi pot. So I got to spend some quality time with an RS3, and this is the review. Enjoy. So Audi invited me up here today to be able to try out just a few cars, and today I decided to take out this saloon version of the famous and latest version of the RS3. Now, a few weeks ago, you can recall that I had the opportunity to drive the hatchback version of this car, and so today I thought I'd try out the saloon version. So let's take a look and see what this car is made of. Now, of course, the last time I drove one of these, I drove the sportsback version of the car. This time I decided to take the saloon just to see if there's any difference. It probably isn't, but it was just nice to be able to take a look at this car in some detail. So let's take a look at some of the features on this car. Right, let's start off with the wheels. 19-inch wheels fitted with Pirelli P0s, 245-19s. A lovely bit of rubber on there, gives this car excellent grip. The engine, the beating heart of this fantastic animal, producing 400 brake horsepower with peak torque of 500 Newton meters. And of course, this is Audi's award-winning 5-cylinder engine that is fitted in a number of cars, including the TTRS, and has been around for a number of years. I absolutely love this engine, and more so for the sound, but also the fact that it develops 500 Newton brake horsepower, and boy do you feel it when you put your foot down. Of course, that engine will take this car from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, and of course it's limited to 155 miles an hour. Okay, so rear seat space, pretty good actually. I'm 6'2", the seat's slightly forward for me, and I've got plenty of space, in fact more space than I would normally have in an airplane. And headroom as well, I've got plenty of headroom. I don't feel like I'm going to be bumping my head around as well. And the seats feel really comfortable. I think I could probably do a long journey in this car quite comfortably and get out and not feel like I've been stuffed into a sardine can. Now, my only gripe with the saloon version is the boot space. Now, although the boot space is quite deep and you can get yourself a good couple of good fair size bags in here, and the seats come forward as well, it's the fact that you haven't got the tailgate to lift up and carry stuff. And I do a lot of runs down to the dump in my car. My car is extremely practical in terms of what I use it for, and this just wouldn't work for me. However, if you weren't using your car for that purpose and you had another car, let's say an estate, I had an Advent in my fleet of cars, this would be the perfect configuration. Okay, so one of the features that obviously that stands this car out than the others is a little vent here at the side, the puffed out arches, which I really love, and this color, it just pops, doesn't it? It just pops in the actual sun, and it really does highlight the vehicle's features. Of course, being a proper RS, it's got proper vents. So in here you've got your two radiators on either side and oil coolers as well. It's not fake vents, and of course you've got the trickery imagery lights here that Audi specialize. Inside of the car, it's well laid out, so we've got our infotainment system here in the middle with our sat nav here. Audi have gone for these simpler controls. In fact, most manufacturers have done that. Let's face it, there are no more mechanical links in between the gearbox and the actual gear shift, hence the reason why we've got these little itty dimpy little controls. I'm not a great fan of these controls, but they are completely functional. You can understand why manufacturers are going that way, particularly with the advent of electric cars. And of course we've got our dashboard here. And of course with this one we've got various different views that we can select, so that we can get our sports mode, our RS mode as well. And this is the new RS mode, which it takes a little bit of getting used to if you're used to the old traditional dials, etc., but it is extremely practical in terms of the information it gives, and that's what it's all about. It's about information. Now, sitting position in the vehicle, I'm 6'2". This is a very comfortable seat. I can push the seat back further, and it suits me just fine. You've got up and down on the actual steering rack to make it more comfortable, and then of course you've got your controls here for your paddles. And of course these seats are really comfortable, and I love the stitch back diamonds that they have here as well. It really does make the seats look that much special in comparison to other Audis in the range. And now one thing I do like about the RS3 that Audi have done really well, they've gone away from actually making the whole center console a glass cockpit. So you still got your traditional controls for your heating, which is really great, so your dual passenger system, and then of course you've got your parking sensor controls and hazard lights, etc. All of these are separate systems, and I think that's really good, including the lights here. And what they've done though, they've just made things really simple, because Audi have had auto lights for eons a year. So now instead of a dial, because nobody selects the dial when it's in auto mode, so they've now just got an auto button, and that's really good with your fog lights and your rear lights. And that's all you need. It's all about driving these cars rather than messing about with the controls. So let's do that. Let's go for a little drive and let's see what we think. So the first thing I love about this is that it's a true 5-cylinder sound that you're hearing through the soundtrack. It is not a electronic sound like the S3. I love the S3. I own an S3 myself, an 8V. But the latest S3 is trying to pretend to be an RS3, which it isn't. This is the true deal, the real deal. Now, being a 5-cylinder engine and obviously pushing out some 400 brake horsepower, 500 newton meters of torque, this car is really sedate to drive. It's really easy to drive, and it's a great everyday, all day long. The power's there when you need it, but when you don't, you still get respectable mileage from it. I mean, at the moment I am doing 24 miles an hour, and yeah, it's very, very manageable. Now, in terms of its response, in terms of the way it feels on the road, the car feels really sure-footed. So as you go around the corners, the car infuses confidence in you, in your driving, and that's all to do with the way that the car is actually put together and structured. So the dynamic chassis system that it has, what it does is it works closely with the electronics on the vehicle. So in that way, you get a much better handling. So the car is in tune with what the actual chassis is doing. So as it twists and turns and bends, the electronics on the car can pick that up and therefore provide you with the drive that you need in order to be able to safely negotiate and have a better experience handling when you're driving the car. Now, how that pans out in reality, I don't know, because you obviously can't tell that. But from a driver's perspective, what that means for me is that this car feels a lot more confident than any other Audi that I've driven. And that's the point. It's supposed to ooze in you confidence, but not overconfidence. Obviously the electronics will take care of what it needs to do, and to make sure that the car doesn't crash, because you don't want to do that. But at the same time, it also gives you a really fantastic experience when you're driving. Seating position is very comfortable in these seats. These seats hold you very well, but not too closely. There are sometimes when you get bucket seats in a car that you feel like you're being crushed, or if you're a slightly larger person, you feel like you've been pushed out of the seat. But these seats are really comfortable. I can see myself doing a long journey in this seat and not suffering and feeling refreshed. In fact, I've been driving this car around now for the past half an hour, and it feels great. It feels very comfortable. The drive in the vehicle, well, Audi's legendary DSG gearbox. You cannot put a foot wrong with those gearboxes. They are hard and tested, reliable. They're fitted in a number of vehicles, and they just work. And in this particular car, it works really well. The steering on the car feels slightly light, but that's no bad thing, because often when you get a light steering, the actual drive of the vehicle feels a little bit artificial, if that makes sense. However, with this, it feels as if I'm driving a go-kart. So the actual connection to the road with the steering is very sure-footed, and I feel confident in the fact that the car doesn't make me feel nervous or skittish, if that makes sense. This car also has a heads-up display. Not sure if you can see it in the camera, but if you can, it is right there in front of me, and it's telling me what the speed is that I should be doing, which is great, and also any road information. Okay, so we've got a bit of an open road now. I'm just gonna put it in a the other things that I've noticed as well, that when you do put it into sports mode, not only do you get the G meter, but obviously the valves open up in the exhaust, so you can really hear the engine note coming through into the cockpit. Plus the fact that you get that classic DSG fart, as they call it, as the gears change as well. That little blop on the accelerator. Did I just say that? I did, didn't I? That legendary 5-cylinder Audi sound that only Audis make. Such a joy to drive this. Okay, so that was the RS3, and it was such a joy to drive, as well as the other cars that you'll see coming up in the next few weeks as well. And I want to really take this opportunity to thank the Audi media team for allowing me to have the experience of being able to spend quality time with those cars. I did also get to spend some time with an R8. So thank you, Katie, thank you, Louise, and Gavin as well. It was really nice to spend some quality time with you, and I met some other YouTubers as well, which is really nice as well. So that is it. Hopefully you enjoy the review. I know some of you perhaps join the channel to see the projects. The projects are still going to be here, believe me, but we're going to mix it up with some reviews as well. And because this channel is predominantly an Audi based channel, because I love Audis, and that's the reason why I'm so pleased that I'm able to get to spend some quality time with some decent Audi vehicles. It's, you know, it's a great time for the channel. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe down here if you're a casual subscriber, and click on the bell notification so you're notified, and like this video if you can. That will really appreciate the likes. Share, and we will see you on our next week. So next week's one, we're gonna be finishing the garage, so that's a real bumper episode. And then next week after that, we've got the TTS, and that's when things really go up again, because once we get the garage set up, we can use all the facilities and really get into engineering. So for those of you who enjoy that, you're in for a real treat. Good, right, so we'll see you on the next one. Have a great week. We've got a review coming out this week as well. We've got the latest version of OBD11. I've been waiting for this for some time. We've got it in. So if you want to know about OBD11, stay tuned on Wednesday, not Wednesday, sorry, Thursday. And if you're a Patreon, you'll get that video beforehand, but it's going to be a good one. Anyway guys, have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.